So Chapter 5 Season 3 has been out for a little bit now, and it's safe to say that there have been very mixed reviews. There's no denying it, the meta is definitely unlike many of the other seasons Fortnite has had, and it does feel different. While that's not necessarily a bad thing, it's definitely divided up the player base. Compared to Chapter 5 Season 1 and 2, Chapter 5 Season 3 had the lowest player count on an initial day and has held pretty steady through that. Looking at the numbers, you can see that Chapter 5 Season 3 had almost 5 million less players on the opening day of the season as Chapter 5 Season 1, and while that is a little bit different because that's the start of a new chapter, I think it's worth pointing out. Interestingly enough, it seems like a lot of people are abandoning build modes in favor of zero build because the meta has entirely changed the way the build mode works. I didn't get to play until a couple days after the launch of the season, but now that I've got a little bit of time under my belt, I'm gonna say the part nobody wants to hear. I'm gonna say the part that is tough to hear for many players. No, this season is not bad. You just need to adapt to the new meta. The game is called Fortnite Battle Royale, not Gun Royale or anything else, and that means the battles can take place and shape up to be any way Epic chooses. And right now, the meta just so happens to be getting into a car, modding it up, getting it really well equipped, and then going out and participating in some vehicle warfare. Many people think that the cars are just broken and overpowered, and I agree, they are kind of broken and overpowered, but it's not like everybody can't go get in one, right? Epic has made it so easy with cars spawning everywhere, these upgrades spawning everywhere. I mean, you could basically close your eyes and then stumble across a car and mod it up so easy. So everybody's got an opportunity to fight fire with fire. It would be different if these things never spawned. For what it's worth, I think it's a really unique and refreshing take on Battle Royale and makes for some really fast-paced and chaotically fun action. One thing I will say though is we need more counters for the cars, but even as it stands now, there are a fair bit of counters. You can use the Nitro Fist for a lot of mobility. If you're in a pinch, the Nitro Pods can really help to speed you up, let you run really fast and get away. Epic has left in the Underworld Blink effect, so if you save that up, you've definitely got some options there to escape some cars. And let's not forget, you could simply get right into the car as they drive by, kind of forcing them to make a play. All that said, I do think they'll come and nerf the cars at some point, but to me, there's not really a need in complaining about this because, again, everybody can do this. It is the meta of this season. Of all things to complain about, one of the very few that I actually agree with is the Nitro Fist punching in build modes. I mean, when I saw this clip, I definitely understood what was going on, what was being talked about here. Most of these complaints that I've been seeing are coming from the build players and the competitive players, and it seems like Epic is trying to force them to play differently this season. That's what about any new thing is about. It's about adapting and overcoming. Building in general is just not as effective this season as evidenced by the mass influx of players going to play zero build. When you've got multiple turrets, hard cars, the Nitro Fists, and everything else, taking down builds is going to be pretty easy. And if you're not adjusting and playing with the new meta, embracing it instead of complaining and trying to push it away, you'll find that this season turns into a lot of fun. Now, if you didn't know, there are 3 different boss mythic cars in the game, and these cars have unlimited gas and they regenerate health. While yes, those are huge perks for defeating the boss and taking the car. By the way, for those of you who have died to the God mode glitch from one of these mythic cars, they did fix that, so you won't have to worry about that anymore. These cars, though, are not quite as strong as it might seem at first glance. The regenerative health thing, it doesn't take place instantly. It has to have some time go by. So if you're right in the middle of a fight, it's not going to be too big of an issue, especially if you're playing in like squads or trios and focusing fire. A normal modded vehicle can definitely compete with a boss car, but with that said, it's definitely worth taking the boss car if you can and you have the opportunity. It is better. I'm not saying it's not. In one of the teasers Epic Games posted leading up to this season, you could see one player using a minigun, which is a sure tale sign the minigun is going to come back this season, which I would imagine would be a great counter to the cars to start lighting those things up. I think this season has finally broken the bad Season 3 curse, and the cars really are supposed to be this overpowered in the first week of the season for the theming of the whole thing and to make this thing really draw people in. Inevitably, they will fix it. They will add more counters to these cars, and they'll also add additional gameplay elements too. This is what Fortnite is. This is what Epic Games does. Battle Royale is ever changing, and if you don't like that, go play something like Call of Duty. Epic has had some duds of a season, but I don't think this is one of them. If you're walking down the street and suddenly you see a car approaching you from several hundred feet away, do you just stand there or do you adapt and overcome? My guess is you're probably not going to sit there and watch it hit you. And it's the same thing here. If you really just hate this season, I can respect the opinion. Good news is it won't last forever. But if you just open up a little bit, have a fair mind, and go into this thing, I think you'll find that after a while, you really start to like this season. Playing with a full party or some friends really helps, and you'd be amazed at how much you can accomplish if you just work together. Too many of the times that I've dropped into a game this season, my teammates have gone away from me or separated, and especially in this meta where if you get caught out without a car, it could be tough for you. That's just not the way to go. I've seen a lot of people saying that Epic needs to reverse this meta and put more of an emphasis on the gunplay. Maybe that's true, but at the same time, the focal point of this season literally is the cars. Like how in previous seasons the theme was superpowers, or it was primal weapons. Same thing here, except with mounted turrets on cars. Like anything else in life, Epic Games isn't going to please everybody, but they can do a really good job and please a lot of people. Ultimately, I think most naysayers will come around. That is, if they actually give it a chance. I know that's not what a lot of people want to hear. They want to hear about how Epic is going to totally change this season and put a whole lot of new things in and take a lot of things out. But I'm here to tell you, they spent way too much time working on this thing. They're going to see it through, and you should too. Some people might try to argue that getting in a turret and riding around in a car the whole game is boring and monotonous, and I can definitely understand that on the surface, but that's only in theory. If you actually practice that gameplay, you will notice that almost every fight is uniquely different, engaging, and the thrill of the chase is definitely there. And regardless of what people think, it definitely takes skill to drive and shoot those turrets, especially when you're going over rough terrain or you're trying to line up the right angle with the grenade launcher. Having a car does not guarantee you to win. Let me just put that out there. With all of the items in the loot pool, you could definitely not do that. I would say it does help, but it's not required. Recent leaks suggest a whole bunch of items are going to get unvaulted and come back into the game. A slew of these are going to be easy counters to the car. The mini crash pad is going to help there, obviously. The Rift to go, pulling that thing to escape a car. I really do think Epic Games has a plan here. Be sure to let me know in the comments what you think about this season. I'd be really curious to run sort of a semi-poll here of sorts. And just because I'm making this video, don't get it twisted. I very much respect people who have an opposite viewpoint of mine. I just don't think there's much need complaining when the thing you're complaining about could very easily be really fun and enjoyable if you would just have an open mind. Not everything has to be the same every single season. If you enjoyed, be sure to drop a like, consider subscribing to the channel, and use code Dr. P in the Fortnite item shop to support me. I would appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next one.